Welcome to Experiments in Leadership. Today I have with me Jamshed Daboo, who is a TS officer from the 1986 batch. And as is wont with the TS officers, Jamshed has had a diversified career. Starting off with Titan, which was then just a startup, going on to the Taj Hotel Group, and after a short stint with TQMS, and then with Tata Capital and thereafter Trent. After leaving the TAS, Jamshed is now an independent advisor. Now, I think you understand why I believe that Jamshed will have many insights into various aspects of leadership, as he has exhibited and seen truckloads of it during his career. So, welcome to Experiments in Leadership, Jamshed, and looking forward to the conversation with you about leadership. Now, you started off with the TS, and I assume that you saw at very close quarters how some of the top leaders of the Tata Group worked. So, the question I have is, what aspects of leadership did you observe and have made your own?
So, you're absolutely right. So, thank you for having me on this chat. TS has been a very, very enriching experience. And one of the reasons for its enrichment has been the fact that you tend to work closely with leaders who have totally different styles, but actually the core on which the leadership is based is quite similar. So yes, I have had the opportunity of working very closely with three big leaders.
Yeah.
Two from the TAS and one outside. One was, of course, Mr. Desai.
Xerxes Desai, you mean?
Xerxes Desai, who was the managing director and in many ways the founder of Titan. And even today, I feel he is by far the best leader I've worked with.
Yeah.
In Taj, I had the opportunity of working with another stalwart, Mr. Krishna Kumar.
Yeah.
Now, if you contrast the styles of both Mr. Desai and Mr. Krishna Kumar,
and also their personalities.
And the personality leading to the leadership style, you're right.
Yeah.
I mean, Mr. Desai was the ultimate in calm, collected, consensus building behavior. He was gentle to the core, yet firm on issues of ethics, principles, and the values of the Tata Group. Mr. Krishna Kumar was fire and brimstone. Mr. Krishna Kumar was clearly very, very hard on execution, very quick, extremely decisive, and yet again, same values, principles, ethics. The core of their leadership was quite simple. And I saw that in Noel too, when I worked with Noel, was the ability to think the big picture and yet get into the details. Not getting into the details to nitpick.
Yeah.
Like a lot of leaders do, they don't interfere. But getting into the details to add significant value to what's happening on the ground, and to get a first-hand feel of the business.
Yeah.
And Mr. Desai did it differently. Mr. Krishna Kumar did it differently. But both these leaders were extremely good. And they thought big.
Yeah.
When I was in Titan, and I was a little bit close to Mr. Desai, I used to work closely with him. I remember the sort of deep breath we had to take when Mr. Desai said we will foray into Europe to sell watches. Oh my God.
Watches. And this must have been in the 90s, right? When India was...
90s.
Yeah. When we had graduated from the HMT watches to quartz watches, which itself was a big transition for most of us.
That was a revolution which Mr. Desai did. It was not about market research, he had this, he was sure of it. But when we went into Europe, we said, Mr. Desai, Europe, and he said, there's no question about it. If you want to be a global player, you have to compete in Europe. And we created an entire infrastructure. We created a new range of watches. But in those days, it required guts. And remember, it was a time when India was not flush with foreign exchange.
Right.
I remember a time, just coincidentally, during the Manmohan Singh, Narasimha Rao time, I remember a time when India had only 2 weeks of foreign exchange, and we
Right.
used to import a lot of modules, and I was in charge of making sure that the amount we import is just within the limit. As a young TS professional and officer, who else will you give such a responsibility to? So it was not easy times for India. This is not like
Yeah.
flush with France. You can go and raise money abroad, and so that was Mr. Desai. Even Mr. Krishna Kumar, the way he expanded, the way he renovated, the way he uplifted the Taj, the way he brought systems, processes, and all this is in a span of 5 years. Huh? Let's remember, KK was
And
forever.
yeah, and Jamshed, since both Mr. Desai and KK Krishna Kumar are were TS officers, I've also had the pleasure of working with them. Intuitively, if you looked at KK, I mean, I think Xerxes was more suited for the Taj group, and KK was more suited for Titan, given the kind of products. But I think it is just a credit to their personalities and their leadership that they made a success wherever they went.
You're absolutely right. I mean, I think great leaders, after a point,
Yeah,
can manage any enterprise,
yeah,
which is not very highly technical. And although, those are niche enterprises, but large enterprises can be managed by great leaders because the core aspects of leadership, of being able to think big, about carrying your people with you, about a deep and intuitive understanding of consumers
yeah,
and customers
yeah.
is by and large the same. So you are absolutely right. I think, and for KK, it was quite something because he was actually coming from a very, very product company.
Very, very, very.
And Tata Tea is Tata Tea, manufacturing, estates, this, that, it's a vast empire. And
Yeah.
suddenly he was pitchforked into this. Well, actually, I am sure that if were Mr. Desai younger at that time, he might have taken on the Taj challenge. Who knows?
Who knows? Who knows?
But well, fact is that, and when KK came in, uh, his core focus of people and customers and bridged with process
Yeah.
was what took the Taj forward. And Taj really, I'm not saying that the Taj before KK was right or wrong. I think there was an excellent job done then.
Yeah.
He really leveraged that and made it into something else,
Yeah. Yeah.
totally.
Yeah. No, even as you speak, Jamshed, you brought about the 1991 crisis that India had, and then we saw how India transformed herself over the next 2 decades. And you've had an opportunity to work across all kinds of business environments. And and since this conversation is about experiments in leadership, there must have been leadership experiments that worked for you and some that didn't. So, which one do you want to talk about first? The one that did or the one that didn't?
No, I'll talk about the one that did.
Okay,
Because
let's start with the positive first. Yeah,
you
so
know,
let's talk about the one that did.
see, when as a TS probationer, when I went into Titan, it was a startup, what you would call today a startup, but a very well-backed startup. And we wanted to create long-term wealth. So it was not one of those, we want to do something and exit like it is with today's startups. And because we were young and the company was flat, and I got an opportunity to really engage and interact with the length and breadth of the organization.
Yeah.
And I found for myself that I had a natural affinity to do so. So while I was at head office, I would go on recruitment drives to hire engineers and supervisors for the factory. Because I was an engineer, they said, hey, we're short of people. Would you like to come along? We need a management perspective. Yeah, sure. Okay, I'll come along. And I started liking that. Initially, I just liked it. But later on, I realized that in order to be effective at any level of the organization, you've got to engage with the people where the rubber is meeting the road.
Right.
That's the big leadership lesson I learned. And when I say rubber meeting the road, I don't only mean the front end sales force, but I also mean the people who produce, the people who keep counts, the people who are actually adding value on a daily basis.
Right.
And it is something which it started with something that I liked. It started making me more effective and more wanted. So what used to happen, and in a new company, processes are not in place. People are sort of saying, "Why is he doing this?" And someone is saying, "Why is that happening?" And therefore, I started becoming a bridge between all these diverse sort of actions that were taking place in any company. It would take place. There were the manufacturing guys, and then there were the marketing guys, and
Yeah.
bring it all together.
Yeah.
I later on converted that into a leadership style,
Which was?
which is that at whatever level you are. So when I became the chief operating officer of the Taj or the CEO at Trent Hypermarket, I made sure that as a leader, I had a direct connect with the people. I mean, as simple as that. Customers, though, of course, and that
Hmm.
is something I learned at the Taj. So people direct connect is what I learned at Titan.
Yeah.
So irrespective of the level that I was in the organization, I would be actually in direct connect with a cross section of people across the organization.
So both on, within and outside. So
Outside.
within all the people, and outside is of course all the customers and the other stakeholders.
So well, I was not very good at the other stakeholder bit because I was
Okay.
really enjoying this bit.
Okay.
But customers and people, without a doubt. Customers I learned at the Taj.
Touch.
Because in Titan, the customers are three removed, by the time the
Yeah.
retailer, then the dealer,
Yeah.
and the franchise. So there in Titan, it was about the partners. So
Right.
even today, a couple of the Titan partners are very good friends of mine.
Right.
But I made that into my leadership style so that in many ways, as Krishna Kumar would say, that whether you are at the property or not at the property, they must hear your footfall.
Right.
And that is something which I feel any leader which is running a regular enterprise, uh, which is B2C, which is mass based, which is spread out all over the country, needs to have a connect. And this connect is not about doing a market visit and all that kind of connect, because we
Town
all know,
halls? Town halls? Town hall?
well, those are all formal connects. That, of course,
Right.
without a doubt, that goes without saying that someone puts up a system and then you do it. This is actually right from knowing some people one to one,
Hmm.
right down to knowing small groups of people, right down to interacting with rank and file, right down to visiting people in hospitals. And this was not just done, some leadership is supposed to be seen to do this. So that was not my intent. I really loved it. I really felt that was important. And what is most important was that I would take an interaction, a simple interaction which is happening down the line, and come back
Yeah.
and see whether there is a systemic opportunity or solution. And that is something which really helped me in good stead, even in the retail business, because even retail, when I went into it, is a day-to-day business. I
Yeah.
mean, there's action happening every day.
Yeah.
And time and again, when I go to a retail outlet, and I would not do these dressed up visits because that's meaningless. We all know what happens because we've been part of the dressing up.
We've been part of gone through our shit.
Yeah, R&D is coming to the factory. So why not? I mean, you want to put your best
Yeah.
foot forward. Nothing
Yeah.
wrong. TBM assessors are coming. Let's put the mission statement on the board. Okay, fine. All that is fine. But I used to go on my own, and very often the one thing which would really piss me off was if I heard something which actually the regional or the area manager should have heard and resolved.
Right. Right.
And people are not nobody comes to you with personal issues. So the fear of leadership is when they go and connect with people and all, they'll come with personal issues, my promotion or my. Actually, they don't. They
Yeah.
just see this as an opportunity to move things faster
Yeah.
and in the interest of the organization.
Yeah.
So I feel that every level of leadership has to engage formal and informal. So town halls and all is a formal way of interacting, but people tend to hesitate at town halls. Some town halls are not like that. I have seen town halls conducted by Dr. Irani where the questions were pretty Oof,
Yeah.
very straightforward and direct.
Yeah. So Dr. Irani of Tata Steel,
Tata
Tisco.
Steel.
Yeah.
Tata Steel.
Just for people who may not
Yeah.
know who Dr. Irani is. Yeah.
And Dokai was another person like that. I mean, you could make out that he was completely engaged.
Yeah.
So that is a leadership style which I really felt went a long way in my ability to drive businesses
Yeah.
which have a lot of interface with people and customers.
Right. Right.
So
Right.
both in retail and in hospitality, especially, your brand is made or broken at that front end interaction. See,
At the
it's
touch
unlike
point. At the touch point. At the
and it's
touch
a
point.
people related touch point. See, in
Yeah.
a product business, if your soap is good, even if the Kirana store is a bit rude to the customer is not going to attribute it to the soap company.
Yeah.
But in our case, I mean, in service business, it is really, the company's reputation is made and broken every second of the day.
Yeah,
At the front end.
which is actually quite scary because the company and the management spends enormous amount of time in building a brand, in building a culture, and all that can be destroyed just by one person in 30 seconds. So, your connect with people, I think resonates with me, and I'm sure will resonate with a lot of people. And if that is an experiment that you carried out early in your career that worked for you, tell me about an experiment that did not work for you.
So, when I went into retail, we were a small company.
Trent, which is
But Trent is a large company.
Star
Trent and
Bazaar.
Comarca, the Star Bazaar.
The Star Bazaar.
Company. And I had good talent with me. And I always held the belief that talent and versatility go hand in hand.
Mm-hmm.
Something with my
That's
school
the cash grounding,
grounding.
Yeah.
And my principal in my school, Alban Ribello, had once said that, look, a guy is only a good athlete or a good student because he chooses to be so, but talent and versatility go hand in hand. And I thought that maybe if I look at my people and start giving them roles which are diverse, they will be able to grow, which they did, and they will be able to perform. And I read that wrong, not the concept. I think the concept is a good concept. We have seen it happen in the TAS. But in retail, the game is different. So what is important, the lesson that I learned, and finally Noel guided me in the right way, and he said, look,
again, sorry, Noel, for those who don't know, is Noel Tata.
Noel Tata.
Yeah.
So Noel told me, look, Jamshed, it is a good experiment and I appreciate why you're doing it, but I think we need to look at it. And the reason is food retail. I'm not talking about anything else. Food retail is a highly specialized function.
Right.
And it is a day-to-day, you got to get it right every day. And therefore, depth of expertise is more important than width of expertise. So you don't have to keep using a lot of strategy and brain power every day. You've got to be an expert at that piece. In fact, as the organization grows, it is okay for your role to become narrower. Now, Tesco used to move people around a lot, but then they're a mature company. I thought, wow, that's a great thing. I must practice it. I did it. We gave everybody a shot. Not that they did not perform. People were great. It's just that the industry and the business, and this is a big lesson that, there is no one leadership model, right?
Yeah.
So what holds true, what may have held true in some other function. So for example, in hospitality, in F&B is F&B. Now, guys, you got to know your subject matter. It's a similar thing. Now, you can't keep shuffling people from housekeeping to F&B without training, this, that, and the other. It doesn't work. In some other companies, it may work.
Yeah.
I know in Titan, people who are in after-sales service have headed factories, and people who are in operations may move to HR. And there was a lot of, Titan is a very good company at nurturing talent. We had a girl in market research, a lady in market research in Titan, Revati, who is now the head of design. And for many years, she's been the head of design. And for Titan. It was a design-led company. So that is a brilliant experiment, not experiment, brilliant lesson in leadership of how you can move people around. You had the head of, you had the number 2 in the finance department who then went on to head Fast Track.
Yeah.
and to fast track into a different level. So there it worked.
But
I
here it didn't. So
and
the lesson that you learned from this experiment that didn't work was that it's really not the model, but the business has to be ready for it. Would I be correct in
well, not only
paraphrasing
ready,
it?
the business has to be suitable for it.
The business. So you have to first spend time in understanding the business before bringing about some models that may have worked in other companies.
You're absolutely right. And I did not have enough understanding of retail. I relied on Tesco for that understanding for the day to day
Right.
and on Noel.
Yeah.
But this aspect, but the good part about both Noel and the Tesco leadership is they allowed me to experiment,
Right. Right.
guided me, and then we
Yeah.
moved forward. And actually, that's made a whole of a difference. And now, of course, it's really showing results. This high degree of specialization, which
Yeah.
Noel has insisted on.
No, so I
So,
think, sorry, carry on.
carry on.
No, so I think, this aspect, what you just said about the leaders allowing you to experiment or to, to do things your way, to me, that is also a very important aspect of leadership. Whether you are straight-jacketed or you allow for people to come up with various suggestions. Some of them may work, some of them may not work. But since you do talk about Titan and you do talk about Xerxes, I must share with you one lesson or one thing that I did a 2-month stint at Titan as part of my TAS probation. It used to fascinate me, and I was just in my mid-20s, a TAS probationer. I would be sitting in that open hall of the head office, and Mr. Desai, and there was Anil, the tall guy, Anil Manchanda, and I think even Ravi Kant was there at that time. Yeah, and these were all like really senior people. And Mr. Desai would be walking through, and suddenly he'll just stand and lean on one of the cubicles, and Anil would be passing by, and they would just start having the most involved conversation there, and call Ravikant also. So they would actually be in the middle of the hallway, middle of the large hall, just having a meeting, and then Mr. Desai would come and sit with me and start talking with me. I found that very, it made me feel very inclusive. And I remember that, when I was in various positions of leadership, I also used to move out of my office and go and sit with people and start talking to them and, do my meetings outside at their desks rather than call them inside. And, I do believe that also helped me in being a better leader.
You're absolutely right. In fact,
But
I don't know how this whole Titan culture was like that. I
yeah,
think led by Mr. Ravikant was also a very cool boss, a
yeah,
friendly person. I remember a time, and that's where the emotional connect comes to a company.
yeah,
So we were in this room doing pricing before the launch, and there was a director, Anil Gore, who was saying, "Oh, you're underpricing. You'll never get the contribution, this, that." And my job was to do, at that time you had B25. There was a spreadsheet called the Burroughs. My job was to put all the watch models, put the price, put the material cost, this, that, and the other, and then calculate the contribution. And there were some slips on which the higher price was the lower price. All this drama was going on, and we finally hit the gross contribution the company wanted, and everyone sort of started cheering until Mr. Gore said, "Jamshed, how have you dealt with the taxes?" Taxes? He said, "Yeah, because the price is inclusive of sales tax, but minus the sales tax, weighted average." The whole day's exercise was going down the drain. And but then Mr. Ravikant stepped. He said, "It's okay. The price is the price. The calculation may be wrong, but the price is the price. No problem, Jamshed. Come on." And he came with me, sat in front of my computer, and sorted it out. So that was the beauty of this. And that's where you really understand that a leadership is not about being there and then being there. It's just being everywhere.
Yeah.
Depending on, what is required at that point in time.
Yeah.
And there are many such stories
Yeah. Yeah.
of the leadership at Titan and, of course, at the Taj. Hey, look at Bhaskar, but
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly.
his level of personal engagement with the ecosystem is unparalleled in this country. Unparalleled.
Yeah.
Trust me.
Yeah.
And that's the culture,
Yeah. Yeah.
Step back.
No, I think you and I are very fortunate that we had a grounding and you of course spent many, many more years with the Tata Group and I did a few years. But the lessons that, I mean, clearly you have learned and I have learned in various aspects of leadership have stayed with us. And the stories that you have just shared, I think are just fascinating. And without being moralistic, I think you've told a lot of the youngsters who are out there watching what are the mantras of leadership. So, Jamshed, thank you very much for your time, and I enjoyed the conversation. And maybe we'll have longer ones where we will go into all the stories about Taj.
Oh, anytime. Anytime. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Not at all.